Hello everyone, it's Nina and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a full reading vlog dedicated to Onyx Storm. If you have been living under a rock or are just not really familiar with a lot of online book culture, it is the third book in the Empyrean series, which started with the very viral, popular book Fourth Wing that came out in early 2023. Actually, both the first and second book came out in 2023. And now, finally in 2025, we're starting the year off right with the third book, Onyx Storm, being released. I am super excited for this book to come out and to finally be able to read it. I definitely had read Fourth Wing by the time Iron Flame had come out, but I feel like I was not as much committed to the series when that book came out compared to how I am now. And mostly, actually, that is from the fact that I had a really good reading experience with Iron Flame. I actually give that book 5 stars, which is a pretty unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people that read the Empyrean series think Fourth Wing is the best, and the books went down in quality with Iron Flame. However, I felt like Fourth Wing was just kind of middle of the road, and I gave it 4 stars, mostly from enjoyability. But Iron Flame is really where I feel like I grew to love all of the characters, particularly all of the side characters, a ton more, and connected way more with the story in that book. So I'm very excited to see now what Onyx Storm will hold. I want to start off by saying this vlog will have spoilers. I will try and mark out like the different sections in the chapter guidelines down in the description, so you can kind of like click off when you get to a section that you haven't read and that you're trying to avoid spoilers for. But I thought right now we could go ahead and talk about some of my predictions. So if you haven't read through the end of Iron Flame, some of these things might be spoilers for that. Just kind of in general, if you haven't read any of the books in the Empyrean series, if you don't care about spoilers, you can watch this video, but if you do, I am going to talk about things that happen in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame pretty frequently. So let's go ahead and get into my predictions. The first thing is that I think there's going to be some form of travel. I think this was already hinted at the end of Iron Flame, being one of the main goals of this book, to find out the secret of Undarna's Dragon Den. I think we are going to learn that Violet has a second signet and what that signet is. I personally think it's either going to be truth-seeing or distance-bending. I think a lot of people anticipated it's going to be truth-seeing because of a, specific line in the synopsis of Onyx Storm. However, I think that the second one is actually more likely because it makes a little bit more sense compared to what Undarna's initial power was in, being able to stop time. And that kind of translating into the fact that when Violet goes places, it takes her less time than everyone else because she can, move a little bit faster. And it seems like in some lines from Iron Flame, it definitely seems like Violet can get places a lot faster than other people. Not just because Taryn is fast, but possibly because she has a second signet that she's unintentionally wielding. I think another big thing that's going to happen in this book is that we are going to finally meet Xaden's mom. A lot of people think that she is a princess from one of the island nations that we have not learned that much about. And there is also a prediction I saw on Instagram that in this book, either Mira or Brennan is going to die. Something about maybe Rebecca Yarros had said that in each of the books there's an important person to Violet that dies. Obviously in the first book we have Liam, which is one of the saddest, I think, character deaths I've ever experienced. And obviously in Iron Flame we had Violet's mom. In terms of some other personal predictions I have, I think that Sawyer and Jasenia are going to become canon in this book. I feel like they basically are in the fandom's mind, but I feel like in universe they are going to now start up a relationship. Also, just as a personal want, not necessarily a prediction, but I really hope we see more of Rhiannon's girlfriend in these books. I feel like she does not get a lot of page time, but because I want more gay girls in my book, I want to know more about her because I feel like she just really hasn't had a lot of time to shine on page. I want to talk really briefly about some of my favorite characters in the books. My favorite, obviously, is Taryn. I talk about him a lot, and I feel like he's the thing that turned Fourth Wing around from being just a middle-of-the-road book to a book I really was enjoying. And through Iron Flame, I feel like I've started to love a lot of Second Squad a whole lot more. I feel like all the members of Violet's crew are just really great. I also just kind of randomly really like Bodhi. I know a really popular fanship is with him and Riddick, and I would also not be mad if that ended up becoming canon. Okay, with that long intro out of the way, I am going to be reading this book as an ebook. I might possibly try to go to my local Target on Tuesday to see if they have any of the exclusive editions, but in general I was just kind of planning on reading the books as they come out in ebook form and just buying them on the Kobo store to read. The reason for that is I think I'm just collecting the paperback releases of the books, since the only book that I currently own physically is the paperback edition of Fourth Wing. And I'm just trying to avoid buying really big, bulky hardback books if I can, so I'm very much waiting for the paperback of Iron Flame to come out. to add that one to my collection. Anyway, with that long intro out of the way, let's get right on in to the reading vlog. Okay, I wanted to do my first update for Onyx Storm. I am 20% in so far, actually 19% if you want to be technical about it. Talking about the overall plot of this book, the two big goals of this book has been, one, trying to find out where Andarna's dragon den is, and two, trying to figure out if there's a way to keep Xaden from going full venom. So far, it's been a lot of we will be doing that being said by the characters, but I feel like there's been just a couple different side quests that have taken up most of our time. In the part that I just read, we learned about some characters having a second signet, like Garrick and Liam. It's actually really interesting because I feel like a couple months ago, I saw a Reddit post of someone talking about how in Fourth Wing, it's mentioned kind of offhand Liam using ice powers, but then it was later confirmed by Rebecca Yarros that that actually was an error, but then they left it in the paperback release, so some people were like, okay, maybe there are just some other characters that do have a second signet, and a lot of people were speculating that it was related to the marked ones, and the fact that Melgren's dragon Kodak is the one that gave all of the marked ones their marks, so maybe inadvertently he gave them all second signets, which I think is a really interesting theory. That does not maybe seem like the direction they're going in. Instead, it seems like the dragons are actually targeting people who they think maybe could handle having a second signet for the purpose of building up their own army, which is a little bit suspicious. The fact that this lore element might originally have just been an error, I would like to call that the Andrew Hussey effect of, if you have an error, no you don't, you actually have a plot point you just foreshadowed from the beginning, and only now 2 books in is it being explained. Yeah, what's up, dude? Yeah. Yeah, come on. Come on, get over here. My own dragon is roaring. I want to mention one annotation I had for a quote that I thought was really cute. This is Andarna talking to Tarn. She says, "Your wings won't hold the weight of this ice, yet yours miraculously carry the burden of your ego." Truly just love my baby girl. I'm currently in the middle of chapter 12. I'm hoping I can make a little bit more progress between today and then tomorrow when I do my next update. At least maybe hopefully getting to the 3rd way mark, if not even farther, because I just really want to read more of this book. I do feel a little bit of pressure to get it done a little bit quicker than I normally would read a book of this length, just because I am trying to avoid spoilers. Usually I'm pretty good at not really caring if I see a spoiler or not, but I feel like this is a rare chance where there isn't a lot of information from the fact that the book just came out, so I kind of want to try and go into it completely blind, instead of knowing a lot about what's going to happen in the later parts of the book, so I can have my reactions to everything be more genuine, because I feel like that is how I went into Fourth Wing, and I really enjoyed that book when I had that type of experience. Also wanted to show you my coffee cup. I got this from Etsy, and it has all these dragons on it, in my favorite beer can style glass cup. This was originally from Etsy. Will actually got it for me as a Christmas gift, and it's just so cute. If I can remember and it's still available, I'll try and link it in the description as well. But I think the plan for right now is I'm going to finish this coffee and then get back into reading. So it is now the next day, and I have another update in reading Onyx Storm. I read a ton of this yesterday. I'm currently 47% of the way through, which is the start of chapter 29. This book is the potato chip of literature. I can't read just one chapter. I have to binge it for multiple hours at a time. I'm pretty sure last night I read it for 2 hours straight, which I almost never do with books. Usually it's pulling teeth to get me to read for at least 30 minutes at a time, but I definitely remember reading starting around like 7 p.m. And then I remember like looking up to do something and it was like 9:30. So at the very least, I've been very immersed and really enjoying my time while I'm reading this. In terms of overall plot, I don't think it's bad. I do feel like this one is truly like the filler book in the way that a lot of people say that Iron Flame is a filler book. It seems like the majority of what we're going to be doing is like bouncing around from the different Isle countries to try and search for Andarna's dragon den there. The first thing I wrote down in my notes is the fact that Halden is so annoying. I don't think I'm alone in thinking this. Honestly, when he first showed up, I was like, ooh, I'm kind of into this like love triangle situation that's going on between him, Xaden, and Violet, with him being Violet's ex, kind of reflecting what happened in Iron Flame with Kat being introduced as Xaden's ex. But everything going on where he just like completely botched the mission in Deverelli, I was like, oh my god, how are you so bad at this? I feel like the only useful thing he says is when he's first talking to Violet, and he mentions that a rider's first love is always to their dragon, and everyone else just kind of like comes second. I felt like that was really good insight, and it also shows that people that are willing to become Venin and like turn on their dragon to use them as a source, it's like the worst possible thing. I think it also kind of like subtly shows that Xaden is almost like toxically in love with Violet, that he is willing to draw on Sigale to keep Violet alive. There were some moments that I really have been enjoying in this. I feel like all the parts I really am enjoying are like kind of the interpersonal relationships with the characters that we've already met and have already kind of like established in the previous two books, as opposed to like all of these new people that we're meeting. There's just like so many characters that it can be a little hard to keep track of everyone. It also doesn't help, especially with like the new task force, that we kind of like met everyone and I was like really trying to figure out who everyone is and like keep that straight in my mind. And then a couple of them like died within like 2 or 3 chapters of meeting them. So I was like, okay, why are we getting like such detailed information about them if they're not super relevant for the overall plot? Anyway, I do want to mention a couple things I really did like. One is the fact that we finally got to learn Papa Sorrengail's name and also kind of get a little bit more backstory about him, and the fact that he's been doing some kind of like shady stuff on the side and like planting some clues for Violet to find. I also really loved the scene when Mira got to meet Drake. I feel like they were slightly hinted at being a good possible couple in Iron Flame, and I definitely was put onto the fact that they could become a couple from a Reddit post, and I really love it. I can't help but love a good canon femdom. I also feel like Taryn is giving very much annoyed single father energy, even stronger in this book than in Iron Flame, with just like how playful all of his exchanges with Andarna are. And honestly, I love any scene where the two of them are on page and just like bickering back and forth in Violet's head. So as long as that keeps going for the rest of the book, I think I'll be happy. Anyway, I'm hoping I can read a little bit more later tonight. According to, I guess, like my reading speed, Kobo has anticipated that I will finish this book in 5 hours. I am not going to read all 5 hours tonight. Probably trying to read for another hour, maybe. Again, it seems to be pretty easy for me to like slip into reading this book for an extended period of time, but I would like to make more progress in this today, and then probably over the course of the next couple weekdays, I'll try and read for like 30 minutes or an hour each night to eventually be able to give you another update. I would like to give you another update maybe around like the 75% mark before we kind of like reach the final stages of the book, and then I'll give my like final review once I'm done with everything. But that is my update for right now. Hello, so it's been a couple more days, and I do have another update for Onyx Storm. I'm currently 72% of the way in, and I'm on chapter 47. First of all, I don't know why my Kobo file keeps doing this. It keeps on showing this like generic version where it just says like the title and then Kobo EPUB. I don't know if it's because I bought the file locally like on my device. I figured out a way to fix it before, and now I need to just like go do it again. But it looks really ugly as I'm trying to film this update. The first thing I had to say is I am so fucking glad that Halden did not come with them to the other islands, and instead Arak revealed himself and decided to go as the royal representative. I do feel like overall this section of the book that I just read, most of the islands were kind of a little too repetitive and almost like pointless drama. The prediction I had though about Xaden's mom showing up was fucking spot on. However, I did not really like the way a lot of things were handled. First of all, their island is like the one island that doesn't have a like royalty-based leadership. So the fact that they were like super into arranged marriages between nobility was kind of strange. I also kind of would have wanted a little bit more of a redemption for Xaden's mom for why she left him. I do think that like the emotional angle was good of like Xaden kind of liking being Venin, because it means he can kind of escape from the emotional turmoil of situations like this. And then Violet kind of showing him that hardship is an essential part of the human condition. I also thought it was really good for Violet to kind of express to him that he should at least like try to meet his mom and understand her perspective, given the fact that she just lost her mother and she would like give anything for the opportunity to be able to talk to her again. So I just kind of feel like with that setup, I would have hoped for Xaden's mom getting a little bit more of a redemption arc, but in the end, that was very much like brushed away. I don't know if there's going to be maybe something else later on where she does come to help them more, but it seemed, at least like from the way everything left off, that we're not going to see any more of her. This section also was very sad because I felt so bad for Ondarna when we finally met the other Irids. Her being like so proud of what she's done as Violet's dragon, and all of them are really horrified because of her being essentially a child soldier. I feel like I was kind of expecting more payoff on that as well, especially with the two that kind of stayed and wanted to hear her out, but then they became like horrified that Xaden was Venin. I thought that they would maybe have agreed to come back with them, and we would see them again in Erasure being like, we will power your wards, but don't expect anything else from us. Maybe that will eventually become a book 4 thing, but at least so far, it doesn't seem like they're going to have any more like follow-up on that plot line. And also the fact that the Irids are like, yeah, there's absolutely no way you can go back from being Venin, because as soon as you start the process, it's like a slow decay of the human soul. I'm very interested in seeing if this is going to be like a hard rule, or if Violet is going to be able to figure out some loophole later on. Because at the point we're at right now in the story, it feels like the main 2 points of the quest starting off have been completed, so I am interested in seeing what the last like quarter of the book is going to hold. I don't know, I feel like the whole section of when they were in the islands was a bit of a downer. I am glad that they're back at Basgiath now, and I also missed the other members of Second Squad, since only Riddick went from that group along with Violet for the quest squad. So yeah, I'm hoping I can read more of this in the next couple days. Based on my Kobo reading speed, it says I have 2 hours to go. I think I ideally actually could do that between today and tomorrow, and then maybe if I'm lucky, come to you later on in tomorrow with my final update, and also all of my like final thoughts for this book as a whole. Okay, so it's literally been maybe like an hour since I finished Onyx Storm, but I wanted to give my final thoughts on this. Actually, I think I'm going to start off by talking about my experience in reading the last 25% of this. Over the course of like the last like week and a half, in like 2 batches, I read the majority of the parts of the book I had left. Today I read from chapter like 55 onward, so a lot of that stuff is like very fresh in my mind that I love to talk about. I can't believe that literally in my last update, I mentioned how I thought the arrival of the Irids to help out empowering the Wardstone in Erasure would be something they would do in book 4, but like in the next like 2 or 3 chapters after that, the one that had been interested in Ondarna did show up, and they ended up doing that plot point in this book. Although it ended up kind of being like a double-edged sword and very bittersweet because Leothan, I think that's his name, the Irid dragon that ended up coming to help them, immediately afterwards was like, Ondarna, I would like you to come back with me, and you can learn the ways of the Irids away from the influence of these other dragons. And that caused Ondarna to have to break her like spirit bond she has with Violet. So that was very interesting, and I kind of wasn't expecting for us to see Ondarna for the rest of the book. But actually now, it seems like perhaps what we are going to be doing in book 4, given a single comment in the last chapter that Taryn had to enter a period of rest, that maybe it's going to be just Violet and Andarna working together. Kind of like how we got the like ending section of this book just being Taryn and Violet working together. It seems like Taryn is going to take a little bit of a backseat, at least in the beginning of book 4, for some unknown reason. Okay, let's get through like basically everything that happened in the last 25%. I actually really enjoyed the final like big battle scene. I was freaking out a lot when we got the transition from Violet to Rhiannon's perspective, since I'm pretty sure this is the first time besides like the random ending chapters that have happened at the ends of the books where we get Xaden's perspective that we've had a POV character that isn't one of the two of them. And I thought that was really great to be able to see the battle from a lot of different angles. And then when we got another different POV with Imogen, I thought that was even more amazing. It's just so fun to be able to see the characters and follow along with their perspectives. And also see their relationships with how they talk to their dragons, which are obviously so different from how Violet and Taryn act with each other. So I really, really liked that aspect of the book. I was very, very worried that Mira was going to die, because I feel like it was maybe said by Rebecca Yarros, or just like speculated from people that Violet was going to have someone that was close to her die each book. So Mira was one of the people that was really on the chopping block for this one, but she ended up actually surviving, which I thought was good. But we still did have to have another important character die. So this time around, it ended up being Quinn dying in Imogen's arms. I really, really liked that scene. And even though Quinn is not as much of a central character to the rest of like the second squad crew, I feel like I still did know and care about her character. And I feel like all of the like character building moments that we get from Imogen's perspective was really, really sweet, which made the scene even sadder. In terms of like the very, very end with the strange cliffhanger and the fact that Violet and Xaden apparently got married, and then Imogen erased all of the memories that she had from the last 12 hours. I'm assuming to like buy Xaden some time in getting away. And also so no matter what they tried to do to Violet to make her remember, her memories would just be completely gone. The ending was very abrupt, and I was very shook by like the final line, basically implying that the whole plan for erasing of the memories was something that Violet came up with, and she asked Imogen to do it to her. So I really did enjoy my reading experience, honestly, for the last fourth of this book. Now I wanted to kind of switch gears and talk about my reading experience overall, in what I think about this book, and maybe kind of give my final rating. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure on what I will rate this book, but let me just go through some of my final thoughts. The first thing is the fact that I feel like a lot of people consider Iron Flame to be a filler book, but I feel like this really was the filler book. I feel like just the fact that we did so much traveling to new places and met so many new characters, but there isn't really a lot of indication that those characters and places are going to be relevant again, makes it feel like a big section of this book was kind of a waste of time. And I also feel like the fact that the goals of the missions were overall a failure, even with the caveat of what I just said about the Irids coming back and helping them power the Wardstone. It just kind of feels like the overarching goals, like there's no real indication that there'll be any changes to that in the future. And I feel like that just makes it kind of more depressing. I just overall vastly preferred the sections when they were at Basgiath or in Erasia, since that is where like the full crew that we met and love are at. And I guess my final thought is the fact that I'm like, ugh, what are we supposed to do for the next 2 to 3 years until the next book comes out? Because if you haven't heard, Rebecca Yarros has said that she is a little bit burnt out on writing right now, and has to work on like contracted contemporary novels next. So the next book in the Empyrean series is probably at least 2 years from now in terms of what people are speculating, which is kind of funny because I had a dream, and in it the next book wasn't going to be coming out until 2029. Really, follow my bookstagram if you want to see hilarious content like that. I really pray that it's a lot sooner than 2029 that the next book in the series does come out. I guess the thing that is going to hold over the fandom in the meantime is the fact that it seems like the Amazon TV adaptation is actually moving forward with development. I feel like I've become pretty wary of a lot of book to movie or book to TV adaptations, because buying the rights to a series doesn't really mean that the show is actually going to get made. And I feel like I've been burned on that front before with other books that I've wanted to see turned into live action TV shows or movies. But it kind of does seem like the TV show is going to happen. So maybe updates on that will feed us for the next 2 years until the next book comes out. Anyway, with that all said and done, that is going to be it for this reading vlog. Oh, and in terms of my final rating, I'm still not sure. I'm kind of in between a 3.5 and a 4. To be honest, I probably think I will bump it up to a 4. Because even though there was a lot of parts in this book where I was a little bit let down in the overall execution, I feel like my reading enjoyment was very high, and I feel like all the stress on me during the reading experience was good and was really compelling me to want to read more, which is always a good sign for a book. I feel like it's always a good sign when I have a lot of motivation to continue to read the book because I'm so connected to the story and what's going to happen to the characters. Even though maybe technically in like aspects of the book and the storytelling it's closer to a 3.5, I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. Anyway, with that all said and done, we are now at the end of this reading vlog. Sorry this video took me so long to put out. I was actually really hoping that I would be able to really power through this book and finish it within like the first week of release, but just some like other stuff came up in my life, and I was also in the middle of reading some other books that I kind of wanted to get done before I really dedicated all my time to reading this. But I am glad that I'm done with this book so that I can finally put out this vlog for you guys. If you enjoyed coming along this reading journey with me, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing if you aren't already. Consider following me on my Storygraph account if you'd like to see my reading updates in real time, as well as on my Bookstagram, which is linked in the description. And again, if you want to subscribe to this channel, that'd be really cool. My goal for 2025 is to hit 1,000 subscribers. Don't know if that's going to happen, but at the very least, I try to update on my channel at least once or twice a week. That is going to be it from me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!